Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you have a great and wonderful day. I am sorry for the late videos today. I'll probably only get 2 out, but tomorrow will be a better time. I'll have my normal 3 videos out, and we will move on from there. But we need to talk about this, guys. We need to talk about this big time. Now, we're probably going to get into some female and male type stuff, some, a little bit of what's going on in the relationship society, but I think it needs to be talked about. But in this article, the far left are now completely losing their bloody minds. They're now saying that if you have babies or having children is now far right. I don't know what to tell you guys, but I don't see how that's far right at all. I think having children is a good thing. However, such as myself, I am not normally a person that really wants to have kids. I'm not really a person that wants to have them. But just because I don't want to have them doesn't mean kids are not good, does not mean kids are not wanted, and does not mean that nobody shouldn't have children. Now, the insanity of it all is, of course, this you're going to find out right now. See, what we have here is that Politico is a insane publication, all right? Politico is insanity. We know Politico is insanity because, well, they write articles such as this, and then you expect to believe the insanity. You expect to believe the cult. And we have this here saying, the far-right's campaign to explode the population. Behind the scenes at the first NATO conference, where mostly alliances throwing out the idea of winning converts to their cause and trying to make their own instead. The threat we are told here this weekend is existential, biological, epoch-defining. Economies will fail, civilizations will fail, and it will all happen because people aren't having enough babies. Well, yes, that is the actual reality. Yes. Let me put this across the part here. The entire world is kind of like a baby decline, a pretty big one. I may believe South Korea is like the worst, with like the amount of babies being born there, or rather, it's either South Korea or it's China. And these countries are not doing good for the population. And yes, if you don't have kids, right? If you don't have kids, you don't have babies and stuff like that. Yes, your nation collapses. You know, why does your civilization fall? Or the economies fail and stuff like that? It's because, well, eventually all the people that were alive die, and then there is nobody else to take over the place that the people were dead for or died, and yes, your civilization falls, your race falls, it might be hard to bit race nowadays because mostly due to everybody's everywhere nowadays. So you probably won't have your entire race completely wiped out, but maybe the full blood races, yeah, those people that place will probably be completely gone. But nonetheless, yes, everything will fall if you don't have children. Children are the backbone of our society, and this is the reason why it's such a problem. Is if you have children and they end up raising delinquents and they cause crimes and other issues, these are not good children. These are not good people coming into society. They're causing problems for everybody else. They're not putting anything into your structure or into your society, and they only cause mayhem and destruction. So they don't do anything for society if they're bad. So that's the reason why the youth are so important. The entire global financial system, the value of your money, and every asset you might buy with money is defined by leverage, which means its value depends on growth. Kevin Dolan, the 37-year-old father of 6 from Virginia, tells the crowd that has gathered to hear him speak. Every country in the developed world and most countries in the developing world face long-term population decline at a level that makes growth impossible to maintain. Dolan says, which means we're sitting in the bubble of all bubbles. Despite the grim prognosis, the mood is optimistic. It's early December, a few weeks before Christmas, and the 100 odd people who have flocked to Austin for the first NATO conference are here to come up with solutions. Though relatively small as conferences go, NATOCon has attracted attendees who are almost intensely dedicated to the cause of raising the U.S. birth rate. The broader nationalism movement has begun gaining momentum lately in conservative circles where anxieties are falling birth rates have converged with fears of rising immigration, and counts Elon Musk, who was nearly a dozen children, and Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban among its proponents. Natalism is often about more than raising birth rates, though that is certainly one of its aims. For many in the room, the ultimate goal is a total social overhaul, a culture in which child rearing is paramount. NATO's emphasis on childbirth notwithstanding, there are very few women in the cavernous conference room of the Line Hotel. The mostly male audience includes people of all ages, many of whom are childless themselves. Some of the women in attendance, however, have come to Austin with their children in tow. A visual representation of the desired outcome of this weekend, as if to emphasize the reason we're all gathered here today. A baby babbles in the background while Dolan delivers his opening remarks. So, this is pretty much what they're going off here, and I'm going to read this. Broadly speaking, the people who have paid as much as $1,000 to attend the conference are members of the new right, a conglomeration of people in the populist wing of the conservative movement who believe we need systemic changes to the way we live now. I 100% agree with that, and who often see the past as the best model for the future they would like to build. That can be bad or good. We don't normally want to go too much on the past. We want to learn from the past, right? That's what we want to do. But I think maybe going to the past here might be a good idea, but I'll go into that later. Their ideology such as it exists as far from cohesive, and factions of the new right are frequently in disagreement. But this weekend, these roughly aligned groups from libertarian adjacent tech types to the Heritage Foundation staffers, along with some who likely have no connection with traditional conservatives or far-right causes at all, have found a unified cause in natalism. At first glance, this conference might look something new, at case for having kids that is rooted in a critique of the market-driven focused sources that shape our lives, and the shifts have made our culture less family-oriented. As Dolan later tells me in an email, declining birth rates are primarily the fault of default middle-class path offered by our educational system and corporate employers, which Dolan says is in obvious competition with a starting family. These systems, he believes, have created a consumer-driven, hedonistic society that requires its members to be selfishly devoted to their office jobs, often at the expense of starting a family. And it's going to keep on going here for a long while, and I'm not going to read all of this because this would take bloody forever. But here's what I want to read here with this. The childless clause is to have more babies. Peachy Cannon, a pseudonymous writer affiliated with the Conservative Climate Institute, urges attendees to seize the means of reproduction, as in to outbreed liberals who are already bobbling their movement by choosing to have just a couple of children or none at all. We can use their visceral hatred of big families to our advantage, Cannon says. The other side is not reproducing. The anti-natalists are sterilizing themselves. Here lies the project, spelled out in detail. The people who disagree have bloodlines that are slowly going to die out. To speed up that process, to have this particular strain of conservative natalist ideology become dominant quickly in the United States, everyone in this room has to have more kids, and fast. But it's only when the speakers get to who should have babies and how they should raise them that their deeper concerns and the larger anxieties behind the conference become clear. The goal is as put by Ian Bronson, the anonymous co-founder of the elite matchmaking service, is more, better, more people. Now, he's not entirely wrong here, all right? He's not entirely wrong here. Let me explain why. Because you guys on the far left are going to think I'm lying, but it's not really the far right, or rather the left, or any normal rational human being, by the way, that having kids is a bad thing, and that we want to completely smash you by having more children. It's just the fact that you are doing it yourselves. You constantly sterilize your children. You want to have abortions consistently, which means you don't have children. You want to date male on male or female on female, and then that doesn't really produce children per se. You have to go and, get a surrogate or stuff like that if you're a male or female. So, obviously some things have to happen here in order to have children this way. And you want to give your kids hormone blockers and stuff. And with all these things happening, yeah, you're just kind of weeding your guys' selves out of the gene pool. Like, you're not putting your ideologies or your way of thinking onto other people, onto your kids, because you don't have them. You're sterilizing them. And you're so dumb in the fact that, like, okay, well, you ignore that hormone blockers are destroying your kids or sterilizing your kids. You're removing their organs where they can actually reproduce, and when you're all for abortion, you don't really get to have that child. That child that you would have is no longer there. So your ideologies and your ability to put onto other children is not there. It's gone. And let me put on to one other thing here that I want to put on here, right? The one big thing. He's thinking that, that is corporate and stuff like that, and the job is causing problems for people not having families. I think that may be part of the reason, but I don't think that's the full reason. I think the full reason why we're having a problem in population decline, or rather, not population decline, but more along the lines of, I guess population decline, or why people are not having kids, is because, well, at least in the West, I don't know about other countries, but at least in the West, we have a huge problem when it comes to the marriages and the actual justice system or the family court that harps on men a lot. And when you have alimony, when you have child support, when you have this huge problem with paternity fraud, and the way the laws are on marriage, you can't really justify a guy to go out and go marry a woman or whatever, and then have a good family structure, a good nuclear family, because it's persuading men not to want to do this, because the system is completely unfair against them. Now, ladies, I'm going to be perfectly honest here. You're going to have to be more for equality than you think. That means you're going to have to get rid of alimony. You're going to have to do something with child support that doesn't benefit you. You need to get rid of all the government benefits for yourselves as well that you constantly keep on getting. You need to level the playing field. Otherwise, guys are not going to want to have an incentive to make a family with you, to date you or what have you, because there's no reason to. It's too dangerous for them. It ruins their lives. It sets them back. This is not only just for the divorce rates either, but the divorce rates is one thing too. That's another problem as well, that men just don't want to have to go and date women either. It's just all these things combined into one that are causing these extreme issues of, having kids, having a family, getting married and stuff like that. I don't think the family structure, the marital structure, is good for anybody right now. I think the way we do marriage right now is terrible, and it needs to be completely redefined and completely redone to more incentivize men on doing so. And then you got to get rid of the paternity fraud, mandatory paternity tests. You got to have, you got to get rid of, you got to do something similar to the alimony laws that happened in Florida, to where alimony kind of ceased to exist after a certain point, because these are things that make it hard for men to want to go in. And then if we make it to where women can be held more accountable, and the government doesn't constantly help them all the time for either having a child or whatever, and honestly, if you get rid of child support, because I think child support should be abolished, I don't think there should be child support at all, because you either should be working with the person that you broke up with, or at least having the father in the child's life, 50-50 custody across the board, 100%, and it fixes all these issues. I think once you fix these issues, we can move on to society to where our birth rate will rise instead of decline. Our birth rate will be kind of maybe another baby boom. But we have to tackle these other social problems here before we can even do that. Because again, men are stepping out. We're leaving. We're not dealing with you women anymore. And these are all because of the systems and the court systems that are against men. And the only way that we're going to fix this is that we make the field more equal. That's just the way it is. I hate to break it to you. There is big things on why our country is the way it is, why these things happen, and it's just something that you're gonna have to deal with, right? So, This is just the way it is. And if we don't fix some of these problems, it's just that's what we're gonna have him going down to this decline. And I find it hilarious because a lot of these people as well are going out and saying, oh, well, this is a problem. The baby issue is, the far right campaign to exploit the population. It's like, they don't want you to have kids. They don't want you to have kids. That's the big thing. They don't want you to have kids because they want to have control. Less people means easier to control. That's 100%. And until they start realizing that their own policies and ideologies and whatever is what's destroying them, they will be overrun. So, yeah. Alright guys, that's it for the video. Like, subscribe, share. As always, take care, my friends.
I'm disgusted about what I see in public. Even people closest to us can't be trusted, because it's algorithmic disease, the social media.